Hello everyone. Welcome to the last video, new SAT math. So there's really one and only one strategy for math, which is to show all work. If you're computing in your brain, you're going to miss signs, you're going to miss to raising to a power, and you're going to miss distributing those throughout an equation. So when you're seeing the math section, every single math section offers a list of formulas before you ever begin. This is the list of formulas. It includes circles, both area and circumference, rectangles / squares, right, the area of those, and then a variety of triangles from area of a triangle to Pythagorean theorem to your special right triangles 30, 60, 90, and 45, 45, 90. What they do leave off here about triangles are 3, 4, 5s and 5, 12, 13s, which are Pythagorean triples. So they're special right triangles, but they have sort of these patterned sides. So when the SAT is breaking down similar triangles, they often pick on these patterns. So 3, 4, 5, and 5, 12, 13. In terms of 3D objects, we're looking at volumes of rectangular solids, a cylinder, a sphere, a cone, and a pyramid. The sphere and the pyramid and the cone are actually new to the SAT over the old SAT. They do also speak about the number of degrees in the arc of a circle. So in other words, if you went all the way around a circle, it's 360 degrees. They also say that this is if you convert from degrees to radians. If you go all the way around a circle, the radians are 2 pi, which is why I mentioned in the overview video that it is important to know a couple of minutes, of a review about unit circle, just for the basics, just to understand, like, how are they breaking down sort of this triangle in this circular plane. And then the final is the sum of the measure of the 3 angles of a triangle is 180. Also remember that a straight line adds up to 180, and you should be off to the races. There are a few other math formulas. I try to do the best I can with typing these in. So it's a little bit tougher here on a computer screen than just raising to a power. So just know that my carets are raised to a power, and know that x1, x2, the 1 should be below it, the 2 should be below it. So I'll go through these. So midpoint formula is an average of the points. So it's the average of the x's and the average of the y's. That's essentially what you're getting. So x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. I've seen midpoint a couple of times. It's really rare though, but just good to know, good to have in your back pocket. Slope, however, very important. So you need to know that it's rise over run. I make a joke. It's y's to get over your x's. Get it? Y over x. So it's a change in y over your change in x. Be careful. A lot of students will get tricked because they'll do that x change first and then the y. How to write the equation on the line. So the equation of the line comes up very often on the SAT. Y equals mx plus b is standard form for a y-intercept form. B is your y-intercept, which provides you with a point. So hypothetically, if b was 4, your point, your y-intercept, would be 0, 4. M stands for the slope. So make sure that if it's a whole number slope, that's quite steep and positive, right? If it's a fractional slope, it's not going to be as steep. If it's negative, it's going to shift down left to right instead of left to right going positive. They're often going to ask you for x-intercept form as well. So just make sure that you isolate for x and you get the y and the other values over to the other side. So a few other things, more math formulas here. Circumference of an arc. So this arc length, what is the length of the arc? Length of the arc is just piece of the circumference. That's all that it stands for. If you have area of the arc or area of the sector, it's just a piece of the area of the circle. So the formulas are the same for circumference, 2 pi r, and area, pi r squared. But if you're talking about a piece of the circumference, it's going to be whatever degree you're given out of 360 times the circumference formula. For area of the arc, same thing. It's going to be the degree given out of 360 times the area formula, pi r squared. So all you have to remember is that it's a proportion. So if they say it's going to be 60 out of 360, well, 60 degrees out of 360 is 1/6. So, okay, you're going to deal with 1/6 of the circle. Also, if you've never had length of the arc or area of the sector or taking pieces of it, it's good to just take a couple of minutes. There's a really great video on Khan that takes about 5 minutes to go through. There are a couple other formulas. The next one is distance formula, although often you don't need to know the whole distance formula because if you have points on a plane, it's easier to do Pythagorean theorem than have to do the whole distance formula. So you just remember it's the change in x, the change in y, and then you just do Pythagorean theorem to find the distance of that hypotenuse of that line. Sine, cosine, and tangent do come up on this test in triangles. So just remember, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. And when you're dealing with triangles, the sine of A is equal to the cosine of B. Likewise, the sine of B is equal to the cosine of A, and the tangents are inverse to one another. Whoa, so problems. Here we are. So we have some problems. Instead of me talking you through each one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the screen just pause for a moment, and then I'm going to shift to all of my work for the first 6 problems in this section. So like I said, when it comes to the math, if you have any questions, I'm happy to work out the problems with you and give you additional problem sets. If you're confused by, dealing with similar triangles, if you're confused about, factoring and getting equations, if you're confused about word problems, getting systems of equations and plugging in and solving and finding ratios, please feel free to come and ask me. So, of course, I write things on sheets of paper and then I photocopy them so you can see it. You can see it through the other side. But here are the 6 problems. Again, you can always pause my work so you can see. I'm trying to write it out so then that way you can see exactly what I would think when I'm writing down my steps. Really quickly, let's just talk about how we grid in our answers. So when we're gridding in our answers, if you get an answer of 3.5, unfortunately, you can't grid that in on the PSAT or the SAT. That's going to look like 31/2. So if you have 3.5, write it as a decimal, 3.5, or write it as an improper fraction, 7/2. You'll also notice that on the bubble sheet, you do not have a decimal or a fraction. You have, you do have a decimal or a fraction, but you do not have a negative value. So that's not an option. And you can hear my dog drinking in the background. The next 4 problems, here they are. Pause the screen. And here are those 4 answers. So these are the tougher open-ended answers. So you can see how I raised to powers, how I eliminated systems, how I factored information. And I also just worked through a couple of problems with the calculator, as you can see. Number 28, there's a couple of ways to go about it. I could have written out the equation of this function and set it equal to the equation here and found the point where they intersect. That is just as easy. So there's different ways that you can go about it. But again, if you have any questions, my door is the 4th door on the left down the old music wing, 2 down from Mr. Brown's room if you know where he's located by the senior lounge. So please feel free to email me with a time that you're free if you'd like to come by and ask any questions. I'm happy to help. Good luck on the PSAT.